Hello, good morning, and welcome to the latest edition of my podcast. The podcast that is linked to the book Living with Mitochondria Against All Odds. My name's Ian. Hello there. How are you doing? I haven't done one of these for a few weeks, mainly because a couple of weeks ago I went skiing. I went wheelchair skiing. It's a little bit crazy when you can't see where you're going, as well as being sat in a wheelchair. But no, it is absolutely amazing. And I went down because of the train strikes. I was telling everyone because of the train strikes. I went down the day before, or a couple of days before we had to go, and stayed one of the hotels in Gatwick, and then on the Saturday I met people who were going on the trip, and then on Sunday morning at 3 o'clock we all met in reception and we went skiing. And as with every skiing trip, when we got there, the transfer from the airport to where we were staying, we had about an hour and 40, then had a break, half an hour or so break, then another hour and 40, and got to our destination. I was skiing with Matt, who worked in the ski school in Andora, which was good, and Scott, who I previously skied with in Andorra 7 years ago, was still there, and I think he told Matt about myself a little bit, so that was all good. Mainly that I was a Liverpool fan and stuff, because he was a Wolves fan, and I had the same helper every day, who was James, and and I had my own room, which was good from because I've been on these trips before, and one, you don't know who you're going to be sharing with, and two, you don't know what impairments are going to have, and so that was nice. One thing I will say is, when I got there, I put my iPad on and started listening to things like the UK radio, as normal. But after a very short time, it stopped, and I couldn't get things like ITV player or anything like that. I don't know if you needed to put code in or something, but no, it was very strange. But then, yeah, we had 6 half-day sessions. I always ask to ski in the morning, because with having mitochondrial disease, I struggle later on in the day. And I know I've got the best kind of possibility of getting the best out of the session if I do it in the morning. So that was really, really good. And I think on the first 2 or 3 nights, we had dinner was about 7:30, so I went to bed fairly soon after dinner, but the last few nights I stayed up with everyone else. I was waking up about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and not being able to get back to sleep. On the way down, someone that had skied with us a few years ago, met me. I personally keep in touch with people, and arranged for Amy to meet me off the train. We went for a coffee, and then she put me on the next train um, to towards Gatwick Airport. Um, so then I spent a couple of nights at Gatwick, and then as I say, I met everyone, and we flew out, and after your session in the morning, after your ski session in the morning, they you all congregate at a certain place, and got some lunch, and then just went to chill out in the hotel in the afternoon. Yeah, it was one night. The hotel had a bowling alley, so before we went to tea one evening, we had a bowling competition. Unfortunately, whenever I usually bowl, they usually have bumpers up. Many of you may be familiar with the concept where you have bumpers on the alleys, so your ball doesn't have the chance of going down the grid, so it would definitely hit the balls at the end. Well, unfortunately, they didn't have this facility. So at first I started using the shoe, like a little kind of thing that you can use if you're in a wheelchair. But unfortunately these alleys weren't that level, so it wasn't always, even using the shoe wasn't always getting right to the end. So then I just bowled it in the end, and I got a reasonable score. I wasn't last. Wasn't last by any means, but now just before I go on anymore, we'll be doing at least one more of these podcasts this morning, so please look out for at least one more podcast, because I'm going on about one thing. But no, the bowling was good, and yeah. And so as I've just said, please listen out for my next podcast, which will be starting very shortly, and it will be on the same subject as this last one, my trip to Andora. So I'll speak to you soon.